How you doing, Bruin fans? Todd Reeves here with your UCLA Daily Report. Glad you've joined me on the Fan Arch Network for this Friday, March 27th, 2026. We're going to be talking some more men's basketball today. One of the big things that UCLA is going to have to deal with is the transfer portal and who's going to stay and who's going to go. Mick Cronin has said that everyone now is a free agent after every single season. So Mick has been putting on his GM hat as he went on the radio a couple days ago on the Petros and Money show and talked for about 10 minutes about certain things with going on with the roster. Basically, he said he's the Andrew Friedman of UCLA basketball right now, Friedman being the GM of the Dodgers, who have won back-to-back world championships. But anyway, Mick Crun saying he's really had to put on his GM hat. And basically, since the end of the UConn game, which he said seemed like a long time ago, he's been working the phones, talking with agents, talking with players on his own team to see who what kind of numbers their players are looking at as far as NIL money, what the budget is, even doing some fundraising, he said. Basically, since the plane has landed, he has done nothing but try to see what's going to go on with the roster as far as retaining players that were on the team this year. Now, one of the things he also said was that him and his coaching staff, pretty much since February, have been scouting the players, scouting their own players to see how enthusiastic they are going to be in wanting them back on the team. And, also the players have to want to come back too. Do they feel comfortable coming back and playing for this coaching staff and in this program at this school? So that's another evaluation. So he's having, player meetings. He's on the phone talking with agents and, so he said he's been on the phone pretty much 12 hours a day since they got back from Philadelphia after the loss to UConn. So Mick Cronin doing all he can to try to see who he wants to keep, who wants to come back, and maybe not everyone is going to come back. Maybe there are a couple players or a player that will not come back. But if you read the social media and Tracy Pearson specifically from Bruin Report Online, he did a thing where he talked about who he thought was going to stay or leave, and according to him, it's highly likely that everyone's coming back. Now he has as good a sources as anyone inside the program, and he's saying the most likely, or sounds like the most likely to come back is Eric Daly. I would say the way he makes it sound, Daly is almost a done deal. I'm putting words into his mouth. So, if some reason Daly doesn't come back, you can blame me. That's fine. But Daly, looks like he's almost a for sure thing. And Tracy mentioned that he's probably going to go back to his more natural position of the power forward spot, the four spot. This past year, he was playing out of position in the three spot. So maybe that'll help things along with Daly and improve things. But once again, Daly's going to have to be a good rebounder. So, there's that kind of thing. Also with Trent Perry, it's looking pretty good. Again, there's a question of is he going to be the point guard next year or is he going to be the two guard? That's kind of something that Cronin has to decide. And that also comes with the fact of Sky Clark. Uh, Sky Clark, will he be granted that extra year of eligibility? And even Mick Cronin mentioned that they've been working with the NCAA trying to do that, get that waiver done, and see if it's approved. So, um, but as Tracy said, it seems like everyone's going to come back. Even the bench guys, the Eric Freeney's and the Brandon Williams also look pretty good to come back. Xavier Booker, he didn't seem to feel as strong with, nor Trent Perry, to be honest with you. But it did seem like it was much more likely than not that both those guys would return. So it sounds like the Bruins are just going to run it back with all the guys they had from last year. Now, you talk about, this roster and the transfer portal. Of course, they're going to bring in some transfers from other schools, but we know for sure that UCLA has added already two high school recruits to the 2026-2027 squad. They are Joe Philon and Javante Floyd. Philon is a 4-star and Floyd is a 3-star. Philon is out of Florida. Neither of these kids are local. Floyd is from Georgia, and as I said, Philon's from Florida. They're both front court players. Phylon is 6'8", more of a power forward, but still needs to fill out a wiry frame. But he's a very athletic forward, 6'8", long arms. They say about a 7-foot wingspan. So it's a good player that maybe he can contribute next year off the bench. They say he's more of a defensive player who can really affect the game on both ends, but I think his offensive game is a little bit behind his defensive game. And for UCLA, that's not such a bad thing. If Phylon can come in from the bench and play some good defense and be athletic out there, get some steals. They say he's very fast, very quick. He's a better offensive rebounder than a defensive rebounder, so that's who knows about that. But yeah, anyways, he has a chance to contribute. Who knows? Maybe he can even surprise and be a starter. I'm not gonna say that can't happen, but it's unlikely. But hey, if we can come off the bench and contribute as a freshman, that would be great. The other player, as I said, was Floyd, Javante Floyd. He's more of a 6'9" center. Again, very athletic, but really raw. Probably looking at a red shirt next year. I mean, who knows? But if he gets any time, I think it'll be very little, maybe like Steven Jamerson amount of time or even less than that. Like I said, he seems to be very raw. He is athletic. I mean, you look at his highlight tape and it looks pretty good. He can dunk and he can seem to jump out of the gym and grab a bunch of rebounds. But again, by all indications, he's just a couple of years away, probably, from contributing to the UCLA program. But we'll see. We'll see when they get on campus and see what happens. Tracy also mentioned that there's a third person out there, maybe that UCLA is looking at from the high school ranks. He didn't name names, and that's fine. But so UCLA isn't even done probably with the high school recruiting. So, as we said, they're working on the transfer portal right now, retaining players, and then the portal opens up on April 7th. So that's kind of right around the corner. And then, maybe later on after that, they will look at whoever this high school player is, or maybe there's some, a couple guys they're looking at from the high school ranks to see if they can join the squad and also maybe contribute a little bit either next year or the year after. So that's where the men's basketball roster stands as of now. We'll see what happens in the next, couple of weeks. We'll see if there's any rumors out there. Of course, the schools are not allowed to contact any transfer portal players yet, but we'll see. But UCLA's made some contact, obviously, with their own players and with some high school players as they had those two guys from back east coming in. So now let's transfer to football. Let's talk some spring football. And the spring football starts on Monday. So this is really the tail end of the spring break for UCLA students. And when they go back in session on Monday, the football team will be back out there practicing in spring. It'll be a good chance to see Bob Chesney, his first actual action. Now, it's not game action, but, to see him out there at practice, see how he handles spring. I think it's going to be very interesting. And it's a very exciting time because, as I've said many times on this show, uh, Bob Chesney has done a phenomenal job. He has been everything you've asked for and then some, as far as you know, going in the off season and working going around town, being a community leader, fundraising, getting guys to come here, and recruits have done nothing but sing his praises. So, for Bob Chesney, it'll be an interesting time for the fans to get a good look at him and see what he's all about. But one thing I wanted to ask you, Bruin fans, is what position group are you looking forward to seeing the most during spring practice? Is it the running backs? Is it the quarterbacks? We have Nico behind center. Are you looking more for the backups? What about receivers? But for me, it's offensive line. Uh, the offensive line has been an issue for many, many years. I think UCLA probably in the last 10 years has had one year where they had a solid offensive line when Sean Ryan was a big time recruit and he was the left tackle. UCLA's had to kind of rebuild their offensive line this season, and that's one of the challenges for the Bruins is can they protect Nico? Can they, create space and holes for the running backs? Because lately, it's not been pretty behind the UCLA offensive line, and in fact, Nico last year was running all over the place, a lot of the times and trying to get yards that way, and he took a pounding. There's no doubt about it. I mean, that guy, you got to give him credit. He toughed it out in a long season last year. So, obviously, some people might say on the defensive side, maybe pass rush, maybe defensive tackles, because that's a thin spot for UCLA. Or maybe it's someone in the secondary looking at the cornerbacks or the safeties. You tell me down below, make some comments, and what positions are you looking to see the Bruins get out there and showcase their talents? Because it'll be there'll be a lot of eyes on this team and Coach Bob Chesney and his crew out there at the Wasserman Center when they start doing spring practice. So for me, like I said, though, it's offensive line. I think that's the key to the whole year. If you can protect the quarterback, if you can, give him time to throw, I think there's enough talent in the receiving core to, move the ball. And then, of course, the running backs creating holes for them is obviously going to be big because you want to be a balanced offense and you don't want to be in third and long all day and then you have a bunch of heat on your quarterback because your offensive line can't seem to pass protect. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I want to see how they pass protect. I want to see how well they, move in space and block. That's the key position group for me. But maybe it's different for you. So let me know. All right. Well, that'll be it for today, for the week. But we'll see you again on Monday for the UCLA Daily Report. Until then, that's Todd Reeves saying, have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Take care.